People are shocked after shocking video showed Lil Mendeecees hitting his own dad, Mendeecees Harris, in public. Fans can't say anything and are wondering what could have led to such a violent fight between the father and son. Was this just a fit of rage, or is there something more going on between them? Eyewitnesses claim that things escalated quickly when Mendeecees and Lil Mendeecees were spotted inside a luxury car involved in a heated fight. At first, it looked like just another fight between a dad and his son, but in an instant, things got out of hand. Sources say voices were raised, accusations were thrown, and before anyone could react, smack it. Lil Mendeecees' hand came flying across his father's face, leaving Mendeecees completely stunned. The entire incident was allegedly caught on camera, and now fans are desperately searching for the leaked footage that has everyone talking. What could have made Lil Mendeecees do something so bad? Has Mendeecees pushed his son too far, or is there a terrible family secret that no one knows about? Stay tuned, because we're about to break down every crazy part of this shocking fight between a father and son. You could feel the stress in the high-end car. It was so thick that you could cut it with a knife. Mendeecees Harris was driving. He had his hands on the steering wheel too tightly, and they were going white. Lil Mendeecees sat beside him, his jaw clenched, eyes burning with frustration. It began as a simple talk, maybe even an attempt to get to know each other better. But within minutes, the air in the car had changed, becoming heavy with anger, resentment, and old wounds that hadn't been healed. "You never listen, man," Lil Mendeecees mumbled, shaking his head. His voice was low, controlled, but there was an obvious edge of frustration beneath it. "You always think you know what's best for me, but you don't. You never have." Mendeecees let out a heavy sigh, his fingers tightening their grip on the wheel. "That's not fair," he shot back, his voice just as low but tinged with the tiredness of years of trying. "I've been trying to do right by you. You think this is easy? Being a father, especially after everything we've been through." Lil Mendeecees scoffed, turning to stare out the passenger window. The city lights moved past them, but his mind was elsewhere, somewhere deep in the past, remembering every moment he had felt like an afterthought in his father's life. The times when he had needed direction but had been met with absence. The years of watching from the sidelines as his father made a life with Yandy and their kids, while he was forced to find his own way. "Don't even start with that, man," he said, his voice getting sharper now. "You talk about being a father, but where were you when I needed you? Where were you when I was working stuff out on my own? When I had to be my own man because you weren't there?" Mendeecees inhaled deeply, his chest rising and falling with the weight of unspoken regrets. He knew his son had every right to feel the way he did. He knew he had made mistakes, huge ones, but he had also tried to make peace. Hadn't he? "I was doing what I had to do," he said, his voice softer now, almost begging. "I was handling business, making sure you had everything you needed. Maybe I wasn't there the way I should have been, but don't act like I didn't care." Lil Mendeecees turned back to face his father, his brows furrowed, his breath coming in sharp, controlled bursts. "You always say that," he mumbled, "but words don't mean anything when your actions don't match. You expect me to just what? Forget everything? Act like everything's cool?" Mendeecees exhaled, running a hand over his face. "No," he admitted, "I won't expect you to forget. But damn, can't we at least try to move forward?" For a second, there was silence. Just the sound of the car's engine humming beneath them, the faint noise of the city outside. But that silence wasn't peace. It was the calm before the storm. Lil Mendeecees chuckled, but it wasn't out of pleasure. It was bitter, hollow. "Move forward?" he repeated, shaking his head. "How, man? How do you expect me to do that when you don't even take responsibility? When you sit here acting like I should just accept whatever you say?" Mendeecees turned his head slightly, his patience wearing thin. "You don't think I've taken responsibility?" he asked, his voice growing tight with frustration. "You think I haven't tried to fix things?" Lil Mendeecees stared at him, eyes dark, full of pent-up resentment. "You know what your problem is," he said, voice dangerously low. You think just because you've done better lately, it erases everything from before. But it doesn't. I'm still dealing with that asterisk, 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 even if you're not. Mendeecees clenched his jaw. The talk had gone from tense to volatile in a matter of minutes. He knew his son was hurt. He knew he had every right to be angry, but something about the way Lil Mendeecees spoke, as if every effort he had made meant nothing, cut deeper than he expected. You don't get it, Mendeecees muttered, shaking his head. Lil Mendeecees leaned forward slightly, his eyes blazing with frustration. No, he snapped, his voice rising now. You don't get it. And that's when it happened, the breaking point. Mendeecees scoffed, rolling his eyes, dismissing his son's pain in one simple motion. And in that split second, before he could even register what was happening, Lil Mendeecees' hand shot out. Smacking. The sound of the slap echoed inside the car, a sharp, startling crack that destroyed whatever restraint was left between them. Mendeecees' head snapped to the side, his cheek burning from the contact. His eyes opened, not out of pain, but out of pure shock. Lil Mendeecees sat back, his chest rising and falling with deep, uneven breaths. His hands were still shaking, his own face frozen in a mix of anger and disbelief. He had done it. He had actually done it. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of what had just happened hung in the air like a dark cloud. Mendeecees slowly turned back, his jaw tightening. His breathing was controlled, but there was an obvious fire in his eyes. What the hell did you just do? He asked, his voice dangerously low. Lil Mendeecees swallowed hard, his heart racing. He had acted on instinct, on raw passion, and now, for the first time, he wasn't sure what would happen next. The moment stretched agonizingly long, the stress in the air so thick it felt suffocating. Mendeecees' face was still burning, but the pain wasn't physical. It was something deeper, something that cut through his pride, his authority as a father. He had never expected this, not from his own son. Lil Mendeecees' breathing was erratic, his hands still shaking slightly as he processed what he had just done. He wasn't even sure where that slap had come from. Anger? Frustration? Years of pent-up anger finally exploding in one unfiltered moment. Mendeecees exhaled quickly through his nose, his jaw tightening as he turned his whole body toward his son. His eyes were burning, filled with something unrecognizable, hurt, betrayal, and something darker. You just put your hands on me, he said, his voice eerily calm. Lil Mendeecees swallowed hard, his chest rising and falling quickly. He started, but no words came out. What could he even say? I didn't mean it. That would be a lie, because in that moment, he did mean it. Mendeecees let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head. That's how you feel, huh? He muttered, that much hate in your heart for me. Lil Mendeecees felt his stomach twist. Hate? Was that what his father thought this was? He didn't hate him, did he? This isn't about hate, he said, his voice raw with emotion. This is about you never listening, never understanding where I'm coming from. Mendeecees scoffed. Oh, I understand just fine, he shot back, his voice sharp now. I bust my ass trying to be there for you now, and this is what I get. He gestured toward his still stinging cheek, his face twisted with disbelief. This is the respect I deserve? Lil Mendeecees' nostrils flared as frustration surged through him again. Man, don't act like you some saint, he snapped. You talk about being there for me now, but where was all this fatherly concern when I needed it the most? Mendeecees slammed his palm against the dashboard, his patience snapping. You act like I had a damn choice. He shouted, his voice shaking with undeniable frustration. Like I wanted to be locked up. Like I wanted to miss all those years. You think I didn't lay awake at night thinking about what I was missing? Thinking about you? Lil Mendeecees felt his throat tighten, but he didn't let it show. He refused to let his father spin this into some guilt-ridden sob story. Thinking about me wasn't enough, he said coldly. Because when you finally came back, you still weren't really here. Mendeecees blinked, his breath hitching for just a second. That one hit hard. The words hung between them, heavy and oppressive. The car, once filled with furious shouting, was now eerily quiet. Then suddenly, Mendeecees threw open the car door. Lil Mendeecees' eyes widened slightly as he watched his father step out onto the street, hands clenched at his sides. The streetlights above cast a harsh glow on his face, making the anger and hurt in his expression even more obvious. Lil Mendeecees paused for a moment before finally pushing open his own door and stepping out. He wasn't about to back down. Not now. You walking away now, he called out, his voice dripping with sarcasm. That's real mature. Mendeecees spun around so fast, his expression almost unreadable. You want to act like a grown man? He said, his voice deadly calm. Then face me like one. Lil Mendeecees' heart pounded. He knew his father didn't mean a real fight, but the words felt like a challenge anyway. And in that moment, neither of them were just father and son. They were two men, face to face, years of unspoken pain and anger threatening to explode once again. The street around them was strangely quiet, just the occasional passing car in the distance. But inside this moment, inside this storm of emotions, nothing else existed except them. Mendeecees let out a slow breath, his expression softening just slightly. Look, you don't understand everything, and maybe that's on me, he admitted. But don't think for 1 second that you got the right to put your hands on me. Lil Mendeecees scoffed. Yeah? And what you gonna do about it? Mendeecees' jaw clenched again, but this time, he didn't take the bait. Instead, he took a step forward, so close now that Lil Mendeecees could feel the stress radiating off him. I don't gotta do anything, Mendeecees said, his voice low, controlled, but heavy with meaning. You already did it to yourself. Lil Mendeecees felt something shift in his chest. The words didn't sound like a threat, but somehow they hit harder than any slap ever could. Mendeecees shook his head, stepping back slightly. You want to act like you grown? Fine, but let me tell you something, real men don't let their feelings make their choices for them. Lil Mendeecees stared at him, his breathing still uneven. Then, without another word, Mendeecees turned and walked away. Lil Mendeecees stood frozen, watching his father disappear into the shadows of the street. And for the first time since this entire fight started, he wasn't sure if he had won or lost. Lil Mendeecees stood there, his hands still clenched at his sides, his breathing uneven. He watched his father walk away, disappearing into the poorly lit streets. The cold air bit at his skin, but he barely noticed. His mind was racing, his chest tight with emotions he couldn't even name. Was this it? Was this the moment where the thin thread of a relationship they had left finally snapped? His hand shook as he pulled out his phone, his thumb hovering over the screen. He wanted to call someone, his mother, a friend, anyone who could tell him he hadn't just made the biggest mistake of his life. But before he could do anything, his phone buzzed. A notice. Instagram. His heart dropped when he saw what it was. A video. The movie. Someone had recorded the fight, the slap, the moment Mendeecees walked away. And it was already going viral. Lil Mendeecees' stomach twisted. He tapped the notification, and as soon as the video loaded, he saw the comments coming in. Damn, Lil Mendeecees really hit his own dad. This is wild. Mendeecees didn't deserve that. Nah, I get why he did it. That man been a loser. This is so embarrassing for the family. Mendeecees walked away like a real man. Lil Mendeecees still got a lot to learn. The comments came faster and faster, like a tsunami wave he couldn't stop. His heart beat. He hadn't even thought about the fact that they were in public, that someone might have been taping. Now the whole world knew. Lil Mendeecees' jaw tightened as he scrolled. His father hadn't posted anything yet. No reaction, no statement, nothing. But he knew it was coming. Mendeecees wasn't the type to let things slide, especially not something this big. Panic started creeping in. What had he done? His fingers hovered over the delete app choice for a second, but he knew that wouldn't change anything. The internet had already taken over. His phone buzzed again, this time a call. His mother. He swallowed hard before answering. Mom, what the hell did you do? Yandy's voice hit like a bullet. It wasn't just anger. It was disbelief, frustration, and a whole lot of sadness. Lil Mendeecees ran a hand over his face. Mom, it's not what it looks like. I don't give a damn what it looks like. She snapped. Do you have any idea what you just did? This ain't just some fight between you and your dad anymore. It's a public mess. Everyone is talking about it. Tenhus is already reaching out for a comment. The Shade Room posted it. And now I got people blowing up my phone like I need to explain what's going on between you and your father. Lil Mendeecees' throat tightened. He hadn't thought about that. The media, the talk blogs, his mother getting pulled into it. Mom, I didn't mean for it to happen like this, he said, his voice lower now. You didn't mean to. Yandy let out a humorless laugh. You think that makes it better? Baby, you just put your hands on your father. In public, and the whole world saw it. Do you know what this is gonna do to him? Lil Mendeecees flinched at the question. What was it gonna do to him? Would this hurt his father's reputation? Would it ruin their relationship forever? Yandy sighed deeply. She was upset, but more than that, she sounded exhausted. You need to fix this, she said, her voice softer now but still strong. I don't care how mad you are. I don't care what y'all were arguing about. You are gonna fix this. Because this ain't how we handle things. Lil Mendeecees was silent for a moment. His pride was still there, but it was starting to crack. I'll talk to him, he finally mumbled. Yandy let out another deep sigh. I hope so, because right now, the world is watching. And you better believe your father is too. She hung up before he could say anything else. Lil Mendeecees breathed shakily, his mind spinning. He needed to talk to his father. But where was he? Then, as if on cue, his phone buzzed again. A text message from Mendeecees. Meet me at the studio. Now, Lil Mendeecees' pulse spiked. He didn't know what to expect, but one thing was clear. This wasn't over. The studio was quiet when Lil Mendeecees arrived. Too quiet. His father was already there, sitting on the black leather couch, his face unreadable. The air between them was thick with anxiety. Lil Mendeecees paused in the doorway. For a split second, he considered turning around and leaving, but he knew that wasn't a choice. He stepped inside, closed the door behind him. Mendeecees didn't look up at first. He was scrolling through his phone, probably looking at the same posts, the same comments that Lil Mendeecees had seen earlier. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, he set the phone down and exhaled. So this is where we at now, he said, his voice calm but heavy. Fighting in the streets like we ain't got no home training. Lil Mendeecees winced. He opened his mouth to reply, but his father wasn't done. You embarrassed me, Mendeecees continued, his tone sharper now. You embarrassed this family. You think that's what being a man is about. Lil Mendeecees' jaw tightened. Man, don't talk to me about being a man when you... No, Mendeecees cut him off. You don't get to talk right now. You gonna listen. Lil Mendeecees fell silent. Mendeecees shook his head, his voice lower now. He wasn't just angry, he was hurt. I know I messed up in the past, he admitted. I know I wasn't always there, but you need to understand something. I did what I had to do. I ain't perfect, but everything I did for this family. Lil Mendeecees swallowed hard. He had never heard his father talk like this before. You think slapping me made you a man? Mendeecees asked. Nah, owning your mistakes. That's what makes you a man. Lil Mendeecees felt his stomach twist. Was this his mistake to own? The silence stretched between them. Then, finally, he breathed. I messed up, he admits, his voice barely above a whisper. Mendeecees nodded. Yeah, you did. Another pause. But I ain't perfect either, his father added. And maybe we both got some things we need to fix. Lil Mendeecees looked up. meeting his father's eyes for the first time in what felt like forever. Maybe there was still hope. Maybe this wasn't the end, but the world was still watching, and the fallout was just beginning. The silence between them felt heavier than any argument they'd ever had. For the first time in years, Lil Mendeecees and his father weren't yelling, weren't throwing charges at each other. They were just looking, processing, realizing. Mendeecees finally broke the silence. "You know what the worst part of all this is?" he said, voice quieter now, but still edged with disappointment. "It ain't even about what you did. It's about how the world is watching us, judging us, making this into entertainment." Lil Mendeecees exhaled sharply, rubbing his hands over his face. "Man, you think I wanted this? I didn't know someone was recording. I didn't mean for it to go viral." "That ain't the point," Mendeecees interrupted, shaking his head. "We live in a world where everything we do is under a microscope. You think you can just move like a regular dude? You carry my name. People know you. You don't get the luxury of making mistakes in secret." Lil Mendeecees swallowed hard, the reality of his father's words hitting him like a punch to the gut. His father leaned forward, his arms resting on his knees. "Look, I ain't gonna sit here and act like I'm innocent. I made my share of mistakes. Hell, maybe more than my share. But you got a chance to do better. Don't throw that away just 'cause you mad at me." Lil Mendeecees clenched his jaw. "It ain't just about being mad. It's about respect. You think just 'cause you my dad, you automatically get it?" Mendeecees narrowed his eyes. "Respect is a two-way street. You hit me in public and walked off like I was nothing. Like I wasn't the man who raised you." Lil Mendeecees' stomach twisted. He wanted to fight back, to argue, to hold on to the anger that had been burning inside him for so long. But now all that fire just felt like smoke. A sharp knock on the studio door made both of them turn. Mendeecees frowned. "You expecting somebody?" Lil Mendeecees shook his head. "Nah." Mendeecees stood up and walked over to open the door. It was Yandy, and she was pissed. Her eyes darted between them, her lips pressed into a tight line. The tension in the room suddenly shifted. "Are y'all serious right now?" she demanded, stepping inside. "I can't go nowhere without people stopping me, asking me about this damn video." "Do you have any idea how bad this is?" Mendeecees sighed. "Yandy, we handling it." "Handling it?" she snapped, crossing her arms. "Oh, so handling it means letting the blogs run wild, letting everybody paint their own picture of what happened. Handling it means letting your son look like some out-of-control kid and you like some weak father who got smacked and just walked away?" Lil Mendeecees shifted uncomfortably. "Mom, no. Don't mom me." Yandy cut him off, her voice sharp. "You both messed up. And if you think sitting in this studio going back and forth is fixing anything, you're wrong. You need to make a statement." Mendeecees and Lil Mendeecees exchanged glances. "A statement?" Mendeecees repeated. "You mean like an apology video?" Yandy gave him a look. "You think I care about what y'all say to the internet? I'm talking about changing this for real. If y'all can't figure this out, I don't care if cameras are rolling or not. This family is done." Lil Mendeecees felt his chest tighten. Done? He had never heard his mother say that before. Mendeecees' face darkened. "Ain't nobody saying we done. But this ain't something that just gets fixed overnight, Yandy. This ain't just a PR problem. This is real." Yandy exhaled through her nose, pinching the bridge a bit like she was trying not to lose her temper. "Look, I don't care how long it takes, but you two need to get your heads on straight. You're acting like you don't love each other, like you don't even care how this looks." Lil Mendeecees' throat tightened. He did care, but how was he supposed to fix it? He thought about the slap, the fight in the car, the years of built-up resentment that had led them to that moment. It wasn't just about that fight, it was about everything. He sighed. "So what do we do?" Yandy's gaze softened just a little. "You talk, really talk, and not in a damn studio like this is a business thing." You sit down, face to face, and figure out where the hell you go from here. Mendeecees ran a hand over his head, letting out a long breath. Fine, but if we do this, we do it right. No cams, no social media, just us. Lil Mendeecees nodded slowly. Yeah, okay. Yandy studied them both, then finally relaxed her arms. Good, but before she could say anything else, her phone buzzed. She glanced down at it, and her face instantly tensed. Lil Mendeecees frowned. What is it? Yandy's eyes lifted, worry flashing across her face. It's TMZ, she said slowly. They just leaked something else. Mendeecees stiffened. Leaked what? Yandy hesitated, then turned her phone around so they could see the screen. And when Lil Mendeecees saw it, his blood ran cold. It was a new movie, one that neither of them had seen before. The caption? Mendeecees' Revenge? Shocking new footage shows what happened after the slap. Lil Mendeecees' heart dropped. What the heck was this? He snatched the phone and tapped the video. It started playing, and instantly, he felt sick because it was his father, standing in the street, talking to someone, and the person he was talking to was an LAPD cop. Mendeecees' face hardened. Lil Mendeecees' stomach turned. Had his father called the cops on him? No, that couldn't be. That wasn't possible, right? He turned to Mendeecees, his hands shaking. Dad, what the hell is this? Mendeecees' jaw tightened. His eyes locked on the screen. He wasn't answering. Yandy's phone buzzed again. Another update. This time from the shade room. G. Sources reveal police involvement after Lil Mendeecees' viral altercation with his father. Details still emerging. Lil Mendeecees felt the room spin. His voice came out hoarse. Dad, tell me this ain't what I think it is. Mendeecees still didn't say anything. And that silence was louder than any words he could have spoken because the damage was already done. And this was only the beginning. And just like that, everything has changed. What started as a heated argument in a car has now spiraled into a full-blown family problem with the entire world watching. Lil Mendeecees and his father were already at odds, but now, with this new footage surfacing with the chance of police involvement, this situation just got 10 times worse. So we have to ask, what do you think really happened? Did Mendeecees actually call the cops on his own son? Or is this footage being pulled out of context? Is there more to the story that we don't know yet? And most importantly, can their relationship ever heal after this? Drop your ideas in the comments below because this is a conversation nobody saw coming. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next because this story is far from over. Make sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on all notifications because the next report on this situation is going to be even wilder. You do not want to miss it. Stay tuned because this story is only getting started.